with Renee.
Yo. We wait all week and all day for more. Saturdays with Renee.
All right. Honestly didn't know what to do. I know we're doing a Patreon special, but I was like, I froze for a second. I was like, let me just hit the regular intro. So it's a special Saturdays with Renee on Tuesday. Jared Ball and of course Renee Johnston. How you doing, Renee?
I am doing as well as capitalism allows, man. I'm having a struggle today, man. I'm like beefing with folks. I'm having a struggle. It's rough.
Oh, really?
It's rough out in these streets, Jared.
So that's weird because when I was talking with you off the air just a second ago and why I'm late is I'm dealing with low intensity asymmetrical warfare at the job. And that's the worst for me. So direct conflict is somehow an improvement in my mind. But what's going on? What's happening?
So I had been doing some volunteer work at a place. And I just got a note, not to me, but a general note that we're to be cautious with items that might portray specific political ideologies.
Oh boy. Items? Did you just say items?
Because I showed up at the last meeting wearing my Vote Socialism 24 t-shirt. And so I sent a very polite, thank you for the experience. I will no longer be volunteering. Have a great day email. And I don't know, man. I don't know. Like literally, I don't know. I got nothing. I don't know.
So yeah, I don't know what to say to that. Mine is Dr. Ball, you are wonderful. Remarkable. Thank you so very much for your continued stellar service. But materially, everything from your schedule to your pay will not improve. In fact, may worsen with more duties and responsibilities heaped upon you. But because you are so perfect and wonderful, that's the oversimplification and goofy summary that I have for my day and my general experience lately. I don't like it. I would rather it be, I don't like you and let's step outside, as opposed to you're wonderful and then everything in my behavior suggests the opposite. So
I don't know, man.
That's why I'm happy to be here.
Listen,
this is therapy straight up at this point.
Listen, I'm for real. I'm just over it, man. I'm over it. I'm over it with everybody. Over it.
Yeah. It's some wild. Yeah.
It is.
All right. But I will say this, reading and trying to be prepared for our discussion here, in an odd and selfish way made me feel better. Because when I can focus on the problems that we all are going to suffer, it's like, okay, all right. This individual stuff is rough, but the collective suffering is
and they're just trying to get everybody There's like no, and the more I find out, the more I'm like, so like we just supposed to roll, like we just supposed to roll with it, like we just supposed to just go with it and just like, and that's it, just go with it. I mean, it's not just me, right? It
Yeah,
can't just
no,
be
that's what we're supposed to do because she's not him.
me. All
And I
right,
don't
so real
and that's all that they would have because
that's
with
it.
you
That's
especially
literally all they have. And you
yeah.
know, this morning on Remix, y'all were talking about that she's currently on tour with Liz Cheney.
Mm.
And I was like, wait, what what are
Yeah,
we what are
but
we doing right now?
reviewing this, Liz Cheney is like the least of our concerns in terms of who she likes to hang with.
Oh, facts. Facts. Definitely facts. But I
Because this rogues gallery you've outlined for us here is just ridiculous.
yeah, every time I do this, right, I start to consider making one of those, those spider web charts where like the lines go between people. And it's so diabolically confusing and connected that I don't know if I can make one. Like I've looked at it like, is there a way to put this like in a graph or like in a chart where people can understand how like incestuous this whole group like that's crazy. And I think I'm gonna have to write one more and then that's gonna be the end of it. But I just this has been wild. Like this has been very eye-opening for me, to be honest. Like just
No, so how would you wanna walk us through this
so
or
well, I guess okay, I can do like a real like a kind of overlook, I guess, right?
I
And
mean, it's up to you. Yeah, I mean,
unless you
like
have questions, do you
I
have
got
questions?
notes, I got questions. Well, I
Well,
don't,
why don't
why at
what
least have notes.
so listen, the grand scheme of it is, and then we can just go by your notes. Um, the grand scheme of it is that like a third of her advisors are attorneys, but they're not just like, I'm an attorney. They're like,
Right.
I'm an attorney at this like big global network law firm that works for all the people that are directly feeding capitalism and starving regular people.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, they're just attorneys. They're like, I mean, these are like, when I started really digging, like Paul Weiss, when you really look at like the people that have gone through the Paul Weiss rotating door between the government and that law firm, it is as bad as any lobbying group that people complain about with the rotating door. Like there are so many articles that I found. I mean, it was so outrageous that I was like, I can't even take the time to try and list them all. That's how long the list would be to explain how many people are able to like just walk through the doors. Like I used to work for the government and now I work for Paul Weiss and I'm going back to the government and I'm going back to Paul Weiss. Like it's wild.
Mm.
And then
And
and
Paul
then
Weiss again, who
so
I
Paul
lost.
Weiss is Karen Dunn. So if you go down to the
That's right.
next graphic, because the next
Oh, right,
graphic
right, right.
outlines the actual like attorneys. And I had to do it this way because if you look at the two charts, you'll notice that there are people that are on both charts. They're on both
Mm.
sides. So you also have these people who, because they are attorneys at these major conglomerate worldwide law firms, are connected to big business in a way that you have to ask, like, is this somebody that I want advising the person that you want me to vote for? Right. So Karen Dunn, who works at Paul Weiss, who helped her prep for her debate, also helped Jeff Bezos when he went before Congress. Like, is this what we're doing now?
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. It is for real. Like, that's what we're doing. And so it's, it's crazy. And then when you start looking at the corporations, which was the next thing that I looked at, like, why do so many people have a connection to Uber? What's that about?
And this Pluff character, or however this is pronounced,
Mm-hmm.
he's the only other note that I had for this one is that I know his name. Someone will know this, but it reverberates well beyond this for some reason. I want to say he's connected also with Obama or something like that, but he's got.
He used to work for Obama.
Okay.
And when he first started working for Uber, he got in trouble.
Oh, okay.
Because he was utilizing his connections with the government to sell Uber. Right.
Okay, so that's what we're, yeah.
So that's why the name is familiar, because he got caught out there on an international, doing his international work to sell Uber across the world. And he was getting meetings with people that he was only getting meetings with because he was connected to Obama. And so it got murky. I don't know how much, like, I say trouble, but I don't really know how much trouble it actually was. But that's why the name is familiar to you.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So let's go with your notes. That's the general scheme of it. It's a lot of lawyers, which already lawyers, and then it's all these corporations that none of them are working to the benefit of people. So this whole lie about, like, I'm for the people.
And that was my first note, that it's always the middle class and never anything addressing the fact of classes, or certainly those below. This is what we always hear. And I quickly glanced, you linked it here at her economic plan. And it's the same thing we've been hearing, again, since I started somewhat paying attention in 1992. We're doing this for the middle class. It's the middle class, because the idea that's attached to that is always, if you are not in the middle class, you don't deserve to be there.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I mentioned it again on the remix, when folks see this John Hope Bryant interview that Brokish did the other day, it is never more clear than what is being specifically targeted at Black people, but any really all of us outside of the elite white, most white and most male circles. It was such a bananas interview. And this is someone claiming, I am an expert, but everything is just dripped in. Basically, you don't have the right mindset. And if you had the right mindset, capitalism and racism really are not a problem. They're a benefit. So it's and all of that is oh my God. Because as he kept reminding them in such, and it is, and I'm not, and I admit I have my male myopia. I have, but I may have, this is one of the more overt examples of that subtle patriarchy that you ever see. He would never talk to men the way he talked to them. Never. I know he wouldn't. And I know I would have said something immediately on the spot to magnify that point if he was talking to me that way.
Interesting.
So they were very polite. But the point is that he was saying, I'm the expert, ladies. You don't know what you're talking about. Without even understanding that he's talking to two successful lawyers, one of whom is I don't mean to be all in her pockets, but it's only in grad school because she loves her people. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not so and he's like, I know how the dollar works. And his whole point is connected to this point that you lay out, you address in the initial paragraph. That if you're not at least in the middle class, you haven't demonstrated a mindset worthy of being protected or
Right.
supported or
Right.
concerned with or
Right.
cared about. So never mind again, as you touch, I'll just quickly go through here because there's really only one really substantive point I think that I've added to anything that you've written here. But but this whole idea, first of all, how they define the middle class, again, this is
Mhm.
ridiculous. So your whole point about this just over 50%, it's she's it's so poorly defined and ill-defined and unclear
Right.
that it masks the point that as you do clarify, she's only working for the top 10%, 1%, whatever 1/10 of 1% that's here.
Right.
And the rest of us, under the guise of a focus on the middle class and in complete omission of anyone else, to be damned.
And I went
Yeah.
on an extensive search trying to figure out like, well, what exactly is the middle class? Like when we say we're talking about the middle class, what is the middle class? And you can find articles that define it, and it's roundabouts, if I remember correctly, it's something like 75,000 a year. It might be less.
Oh,
Like
in
200,
general, I've seen it. It's described as anywhere from 20 to 200,000 a year.
which right, but the actual like when I because I you know me, I went digging. And there's actually like this is the average. And if you fall anywhere between double the average or half of the average, then you're in the middle class. The problem is, depending on what state you live in,
Mm.
right? That differential changes. So the middle class is not always the middle class depending on where you live because there's a whole breakdown of like here's what actual middle class is if you live in this state, and it's wildly different depending on which part of the country, like which state in the country you live in. So if you even take that into account, like who are we talking to exactly, right? Who are we talking to?
Again, she's only talking to is again. Well, you pointed out. I'll get there differently, but essentially, she's only talking to the people who are part of that. Uh, uh, Really, they're all only talking to the 10% that have what
Mhm,
80% of the stock or whatever.
mhm,
But
mhm.
it's anyone who thinks that they have a vested interest in this machine. That's what she's talking to. Because at a certain point, it's I believe this is their view is that if you are poor enough, you don't care, you don't count, you're
Right,
either not voting, or if you do vote, it don't matter. That Princeton 2014 study that said if even 2/3 of the country want something that the elite don't want, it doesn't happen.
right,
So so that's who she's talking to. And then they can use this vague middle class, as but again, my point is it's really not speaking to an actual income number. It's speaking to a mindset
right, right,
of the John Hope Franklins who are saying, no, this system is not broken. Only we are broken.
right,
That's who she's talking to.
right.
So, yeah, anyway, that's why I'm glad you pointed out that she thinks prosecution is the noblest profession.
If I hear her say it one more time, it was the noblest profession, as she cackles. Like, noblest profession according to who? Like, all the people you help send to jail? Like, who?
That's it.
Like, who are we referring to exactly? Who?
Uh, you point to her legal and financial support network are all defense, trade, fintech, which she keeps talking more about
Mm-hmm.
in this crypto nonsense. And at some point, I'll talk about that again because Even my name I got interviewed for an article in the Intercept about that recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but this whole the article anyway. As usual, I talk a lot. They use very little. But the point is, this fintech. It's the fintech. The hedge funds, real estate, investment, private equity groups. This is who she's talking to. This is
Yeah.
and the people that want or think they can get in there.
Yeah.
But really, it's the BlackRock part that I just wanted to add one little piece to here, because when you talk about BlackRock and Larry Fink and all the people that intersect in terms of working for that uh, investment firm and
Mhm.
Kamala funding both parties,
Mhm.
and you're talking about the holdings of $10.65 trillion,
Mhm.
their Aladdin platform, which 30,000 clients use, has them actually engaged in, I would argue, controlling what their Wikipedia page reports, and I've seen in other interview spaces and discussion in news spaces, is over $21 trillion. Meaning that BlackRock, because of their and the Aladdin platform is one of those highly advanced platforms that allows you to trade. It's like an algorithm or whatever, a program that
Mhm.
trades for you by the millisecond. And I like Noam Chomsky had a line that said that there are um oh, what did he oh, he had a phrase for this. Damn, I knew I was going to forget it. Anyway, it'll come later. But he had a phrase for this because it's like a virtual parliament, something akin to that,
Ooh.
because they're trading so fast by literally the millisecond all around the world that people globally are able to invest in so-called democracies in ways that manipulate, because of what you're describing here, of
Mhm.
the relationship that all of these people have to the politicians. They're manipulating people all over with these high-tech platforms, and it's in control of what is more than the US general gross domestic product.
Right. I mean, that's a lot
So,
of damn money. That's a lot of money.
and that's who
And
she's
and that
rocking with.
right.
So,
And I had no idea that they had a pack. Like when I fell down this rabbit hole of like just looking at BlackRock, I don't even know how I got to be honest. Like I read one article and then it sends me on this path looking for something else. And it was something that I read that mentioned donations. And I was like, donations? And I was like, oh, I guess it's just like people who work for BlackRock. And then I read some more, and it was like, well, they equally split their funding between Democrats and Republicans. And I was like, wait a minute, BlackRock is splitting their funding? Like, wait a minute. So then I start going to I mean, I dug this out of the FEC because I wanted to understand, like, is this people who work for BlackRock or is this BlackRock? So to discover that BlackRock, like BlackRock, has a political action committee. And so I start asking people, like, did you know BlackRock had a PAC? Did you know BlackRock had a PAC? Because I sure as hell didn't know that BlackRock had a PAC. And it's not new. 2000 is the origination date or the FEC filing. So it's not new.
I mean, as soon as I mean, they might as well. They're basically controlling everybody's money,
I mean,
at least the
true,
ruling elite's money.
true.
Um, and if the U.S., as John Hope Franklin, I hate keep coming back to this, but I had to take such meticulous notes on this madness, as he kept saying, if the U.S. is the biggest economy, in other words, so why fight it? Was his point. And BlackRock is literally exchanging, and again, I would argue in control of more than that.
That's
Why
wild.
not? Why
I
not make
mean, you
sure
might as well.
you
And
might as well.
they can't as a pack apparently give directly to federal campaigns. So who knows like how that's all playing out. But so all of their campaigns that they donate to are state campaigns. But I noticed they gave money to Kristen Cinema after she did her little thumbs down and became a meme. Right? They giving money to all the APAC folks and the Republican, like they're just spread, they spread the wealth. So it's, it was for me very eye-opening to see that it's like that they're doing that and that no one talks about it. Because there should be no reason that 14 years after they initiated this PAC that no one knows that BlackRock has a PAC.
Oh, there's one more thing. I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't
No,
mean to.
go.
But there's
Go.
one more thing that I wanted to mention specifically because this exact point came up in my classes yesterday. This paragraph here alone that you include regarding this failed attempt at a PAC or allegedly or whatever. So one, this is exactly why I keep arguing, and we just talked about this yesterday. Stop doing the silly Illuminati, mystical, reptile people, all of that stuff. Like, stop it. All of that only exists so that this very real, simple, basic stuff never gets considered.
Right.
It's obviously people with power gather secretly to work together to celebrate one another, to enjoy in various carnal all of that. I know all of that is going on, but they're doing it also to magnify their interests, to organize and magnify their interests. It's not we don't need all of that other stuff.
Right.
When you talk about this gathering that even the New York Times apparently talked about, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need all of that. They cloned Tyrone and all that stuff. We don't need all of that.
No.
Just look at the basic. Of course, they're going to gather and talk about, hey, how do we pool our resources to make sure we have someone in various offices that will do what we need done policy-wise.
Right.
It's not.
And I'm curious to know why the PAC didn't work. Like, what fight did y'all have at the dinner table that resulted in the PAC not becoming a thing? Because I'm curious. Because there are PACs that are rich Black folks who pool their resources. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 of them, if I remember correctly, from what I was digging, like in trying to figure out, like, did this one happen?
Well, this one, because if the goal is to get a Black woman elected, I could see why people would say, and maybe they understood that this woman isn't the one either, given how unpopular she ended up being in real life.
But don't forget, this was back in 2017.
I know. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm just guessing. Maybe they understood that this is not a likable person, because I remember reading in Paul Street's work, and there's another one I'm forgetting, but where they talk that Obama got, from the early 90s, he was getting dragged to all kinds of these kinds of things where people were basically debating, is he Black but not civil rights Black? And I think I'm quoting Paul Street on that one. That, you know what I mean? So that, like, it might take time. Maybe they thought that wasn't the moment. Maybe they thought it wasn't necessary yet. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Look, it's all interesting. Like, it was
maybe if we weren't watching so many clone Tyrones and Jay-Z Illuminati symbols, we might investigate that and find out. Maybe.
I mean, it was her and Cory Booker there. And perhaps, this is post Trump being in office. So perhaps the conversation was like, who do we send? Who do we send next to try? And they both ended up.
Maybe.
They both ran for president initially. They were both running under the Democratic ticket in the primary in 2019.
And
So,
again, my very first assignment for Black Agenda Report back in the day was being sent to the National Press Club to raise a question as to how, basically, why is Cory Booker the new Trojan, Trojan candidate,
mm,
as he was brought in to get rid of, now I can't remember his name, Sharp, Sharp James out of Newark.
mm. I wasn't in
Anyway,
Jersey at the time, so
yeah, no, yeah, this is a long time ago. But
yeah,
the point is that was where I first got introduced to Cory Booker as somebody who was being, again, Trojan horse, meaning from Martin Kilson, who coined the phrase that it's the Black candidate who's the Trojan horse, that inside is the white conservative
right,
politics and money.
right.
Um, so yeah, so that
So
he
I
would
mean,
be in 2017 looking to anoint the next one.
makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, it's a lot. It's just, and I always have to remind myself that like the time that this particular article took me a really long time to write, because at first I was, my goal when I write them is to try and figure out a way to present the information so that people who are seeking clarity on why these things are worth looking at can get that in a digestible format, right? Like it's a lot of information, and it's at times it almost feels like, is this, like, in my head I'm like, is this really a big deal, right? Like, is it really that like, does it really make like that much of a difference that she's got all these attorneys, until you start looking at the law firms, right? Until you realize that the dude Josh Shu or Hisu, or his last name is HSU, I don't know how to pronounce it, is now part of the attorney group that defines law for other attorneys,
Mm.
right? So like you have all these things that on its surface maybe it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but if you really look at it, like, do we want to be concerned with the fact that Deanne Millicent started out working for Jenner and Block, which is where two other people worked, and then she went on to work for what's his name out of Chicago, what's his name, that ended up in Biden's administration. Why am I blanking on his name? I feel like you right now. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
my bad. I'm
He
sorry.
was the he was the
I'm
mayor. He was the mayor when
Oh, Rahm Emanuel?
Rahm Emanuel. She worked for Rahm
Oh,
Emanuel's, right. And after Laquan McDaniel, she signed on to work for him.
wow.
And she was
Wow.
appointed to be like, the general counsel on like this group that was supposed to be working on the policing stuff and blah, 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 blah. And now she works for Ford Motor Company, right? Like, so you can look at her trajectory and be like, well, wow. Like she's done every single thing that you don't want people to do if they're claiming to be someone who's, working for the campaign that's quote unquote for the people, right? And so for me, like really and truly, like you look at these things and I'm like, am I overthinking it? Like, am I giving this too much energy to be like, this shit is wild? Like all
No,
these
in
people
fact, I think look, as I know, first of all, I'll just speak for myself. I appreciate that you were willing and had the idea to share this first with our patrons. Uh, but also I think you're to be thanked and commended for doing the work. I don't think it's thinking, well, first of all, I'm biased. I'm never the one. I'm always the one thinking, don't tell me I'm overthinking it. You're underthinking it. You, like, catch up. Think more, God damn it. So I don't think that, but even going back to, and I'm not sure Jamon 93, forgive me for that, if what PBS documentary you're talking about, but if you're referring to the whole Trojan horse thing, my point, the connection I'm making here is that it was Bruce Dixon and Glenn Ford that first put me on to paying more attention to these things with the Obama situation. Like, look at who he's putting on his cabinet. That will tell you everything and more that you need to know.
Right.
And then beyond whatever he's saying, now, thankfully, Kamala's she's helping us by telling everybody, I'm not doing anything for Black people. I'm not doing anything for poor people. I'm only working for the middle class, and I'm courting Republicans. So she's being at least a little more honest here. But
Right.
but that's the point, that when you look at who is around, and as John Hope Bryant, not John Hope Franklin, rest in peace, apologies. When John Hope Bryant says, if you surround yourself with poor people, then you'll be poor. And if you surround yourself with rich people, you'll be rich. This is the political equivalent. She's saying, I'm hanging with the richest of the rich.
I mean, for reals.
That's who I'm talking to and talking about and working for. So,
and her advisors have some serious, like, these are some legit connections. Like, when you look at the people who they have worked for, and this is all fields, like the chick O'Malley Dillon, who is I think it's her campaign manager, used to work for the Chan Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Like, did work with the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, did work with General Electric, did work with Lyft, did work like,
which is perfect, because she is a product.
The Gates Foundation. Like, this is who she's connected to. And these are all people, again, who are not looking to do anything for the material conditions of regular people. Like, Gates is too busy buying up the land so that he could eat all the real food and force everybody else to make stuff that was made in a jar, like in a jar somewhere. So it's just, I don't know, man. You're right. I probably shouldn't undersell it, but I really do. Like, so this was tough for me to write, and it was because I was like, am I thinking too much about this? And then I just couldn't stop thinking about, like, these people are connected to so many things that just, these are not for the people. Like, I know folks in California got really excited when LaFonza Butler got dinged to replace poor Dianne Feinstein, who they rolled out onto the floor and had to wheel out feet first. Like, they were all fired up. But did anybody look at the fact that she was working for Emily's List, like, which always from the outside sounds like a good thing, but what are they really doing? Right? And Maya Harris, her sister, is on the board for Emily's List. And had to temporarily step down so she could help with her sister's campaign. And then you have the same woman, no, not Dunn, it's someone else who also works on a campaign, who also used to consult for Emily's List. So you have all these people who are connected with all of these things. And one has to look and really say, like, are they actually doing anything to benefit people? Right? Like, are they? I don't know. Oh, Voles.
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 That's the one. Yeah.
That's the
I'm
name.
trying to
So
find it.
this is the other thing that I want people to understand as I'm doing these things. Some of these people, their histories are hidden. Right? So, like, Voles specifically, for 1 year, worked for Fannie Mae. She was their senior VP of communications. The 1 year she worked for Fannie Mae was the year that they got caught out there lying to people about the fraudulent mortgages. Right?
Oh, so she's like a PR fix-it?
She's a PR fixer, right? So, but if you look it up, it is very hard to confirm that she worked. Now, she definitely worked for Fannie Mae from 2007 to 2008, 100%. But finding that link took hours because I didn't want to say it unless I was sure that I could find it. You know what I mean? But they don't mark, like, they don't present that anywhere. And the only reason it's confirmed is because when she got hired at GWU, they said she's coming to us from Fannie Mae. that was the only thing. And I might have been 2008 to 2009. You know, I have to look at the link. But either way, it was definitively when
look at the shitty macho. Emily's list says our endorsed candidates run to win and change the world. Diabolical. It's diabolical.
And she got 3 people as advisors who are associated with Emily's list.
And that's how they do me at my job. I don't mean to bring it back to myself. I apologize. It's just that the call is so fresh. That's how they do it. That's how they do it.
Yeah.
If we just here to change the world by suffocating you.
Right. We're going to change the world by killing off all the poor people.
By making you suffer in it. That's the change.
I just don't. It's wild, man. It's wild. But all these connections, it's crazy. And I try to add additional articles at the end every time so people have other stuff to look at. But, you know, there's a lot of dark money behind Kamala's campaign as well. Right. And so I didn't even get into all of that because when I found this article, I was tired and I was like, I can't
I mean, you know, we've even though we've talked for, 40 plus minutes, even this relatively short article isn't being done justice. So I'm sure there's a lot, obviously there's always more, but there's still a lot more even within your article. And I did a little bit of it, if you start clicking the links that you include, and then if you click even beyond that, I mean, it just leads you all, I think, to the safe conclusion that she's not working for our interests here. She's not
in any way, shape, or form. Not at all. Not even a little bit.
And I get it. Her campaign is, I'm not him, but she's not her either.
Right. She ain't it. She ain't it. Which was the first thing that I wrote about her. Kamala Harris ain't it. And people were mad at me. Like, but I don't know what.
No,
like,
they're just not looking.
Right. Like, it doesn't, it takes a lot, but I gave it all to you. Right. And I intentionally always have 8,000 links in my articles because I never want someone to be like, she said that, but she don't got no evidence. She ain't got no support for that. Right.
It's not that you don't have support. The problem really is that it's the dominant narrative that's being presented. People are not doing anything akin to what you're doing. They're not doing what the rest of us are doing in these spaces. They're caught up in, I mean, whenever I peek my head out of these spaces, the messaging is everywhere, and it's just she's not him. Vote for her. That's it. So that's it. So all of this, even that's my problem, is that even if they're exposed to all of this,
it won't
and
matter.
accept it, won't matter.
Yeah.
She's not him. So but it's definitely not, the problem is definitely not that you're overthinking anything. Good Lord. Yo.
Oh, it's so much, man. So I think the last one is gonna have to be the Clinton and Obama connection.
That's gonna be a fun one. I look forward to that.
Lordy, There's a lot of them. There's a lot that
It
were
would have
with
to be.
yeah. And it's they were either with Clinton or with Obama or with both Clinton and Obama.
If
Right?
you
There's
could,
very
my one,
few that aren't in between, that are free of all of it.
not to be the guy that puts a request into the DJ, but if you could just throw like one or two lines in there about the DLC, the Democratic Leadership Committee or whatever, or council or whatever they called themselves, that produced Clinton in the first place.
Now, is this the same? Is this the group of Black women?
No, this is the Democrat. No, they would be interesting too. And I forgot what they called themselves. This is the right wing of the Democratic Party that organized themselves post Reagan to say we've got to move more to the center so that we can capture back those rates. And it's the DLC, the Democratic Leadership Committee, Democratic Leadership Council. They're the right wing of the Democratic Party that produced Bill Clinton. And that's the turning point. And because I mentioned his name, Reagan died during my wedding, so salute. That's the committee that produced Clinton, and I think is a good starting point for, because really where we are today, they're the ones that said the if you could imagine, the Jimmy Carter Democratic Party is too left wing.
Lord.
And that's why we lost to Reagan, and we got to get it back from Reagan by moving more to the center. And then they went and found Bill, and they said Bill is the guy. Bill is the guy that's gonna come in there with the saxophone and the I smoked but didn't inhale, and I had these affairs that Black people were encouraged to turn into using as support. Well, if he cheated on his wife, he's down with the people. I mean, this was literally it was so crazy.
It was, because I remember people being like, Bill Clinton was the first Black president.
Toni Morrison said that. That was the thing.
Very, very, very clearly remember. Very clearly.
So, and if Toni Morrison says that, she who is adorned by Oprah, or anointed, I meant, by Oprah. Shout out to Daphne Reid, the best essay I've ever seen on Oprah is from Daphne Reid, and it's about the Oprah Book Club and the anointment of Toni Morrison and the rich white woman audience. It's all connected. All of this is connected. These are the conspiracies. These are, get out of that silly. No, I'll just play it. Yeah. If I can just real quick, Chitty Matcha, one, shout out to Chitty Matcha for being one of this platform's biggest supporters in social media. Thank you very much. And yes, Black Commentator did a piece on Cory Booker. That's where I was first introduced to him. And I don't remember exactly the timeline, to be honest, when Glenn moved to create Black Agenda. So it may have been my first assignment was with Black Commentator, but I think it was when he started critiquing Cory on Black Commentator, and then when Black Agenda got created, that was where I got my first official assignment. I think that was it. But so I just wanted to respond to that and salute to Chitty Matcha real quick. So thank you very much.
All right. So this will go full stream later, right? So anybody can watch
whenever.
It.
Yep.
But I do thank the Patreons who jumped on.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much.
This was the goal, to do little things for y'all so you feel, like your support of the channel is giving you something that everybody else ain't getting.
Yeah, because definitely you deserve it, and thank you very much. Yeah. 100%. So yeah, this was a great idea, Renee, and I appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you for jumping on. Yeah. Thank you for jumping on. And
obviously, yeah.
Folks, go read the article. The links to parts 1 and 2 are in the article. It's in the notes, Jared, because he be on it. And then feel free, honestly, y'all, if you put a note in there, I answer. Like, I read when people write notes in my Substack. So if you put a note in there, I'll write you back. I do. Pay attention.
It's an invitation and a warning. I'll just play.
Oh man.
All right, listen, Renee, thank you for the great work. Patrons, thank you all very much for your support. Those who are joining us live, thank you very much as well. To those who will see this later, whenever even it goes public, thanks to you for your support. And as always, peace. Only if you're willing to fight for it. As Fred Hampton used to say, and we'll see you this Saturday and every Saturday with more Saturday with Renee.